So, first question. Well, you just released this new album, which we like very much, and therefore we want to story about you as a band and about the album, of course, but also a bit of the history, bit about the history of the band. So actually, you were part of the neo-progressive scene, if I can say it like that, in the 80s of this new movement. Uh, do you remember something about that time? How do you remember these times?
Yes, yeah. We were sort of reluctant members of that
Yeah.
pigeonhole, you know. We were put into that group, but not surprisingly, because I was originally in a band called Electric Gypsy, and that band kind of morphed into Marillion. So the bass player was Doug Irvin, and the drummer was Mick Pointer.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there was me and a guy called Alan King singing. So anyway, that band became Marillion when Brian Jelliman joined, and so on. Eventually, Fish and Diz Minute and Steve Rothery. So once they started, getting out there and playing and making a name for themselves, in the meantime, in 1980, I'd started Solstice with Mark Elton, but we were all friends. So when Marillion started to get some bigger shows and they needed support acts, they gave us supports, right? So really, we played with them right through to the Marquee Club in London, and then to the point where we got our own headline shows there. So Marillion were like a great help to us, you know.
Yeah.
There was a very nice community thing there, and lots of other bands, of course, came in around the same time, Pendragon, IQ, and so on. So it kind of really, I mean, we worked hard before we got our own. I think our first marquee headline was like the beginning of '83 or '82, I can't remember, but we'd already done quite a few tours, because in those days there was a lot of university gigs, there were rock clubs, so we bought ourselves an old horse box, jumped in the back and went off touring around the country. So we put in a lot of work. We had a great time, and we just found ourselves playing big shows, the Marquee, and then Reading Festival, and Glastonbury, and all those places. So it was a lot of fun. We were very young. We were totally unambitious. We weren't interested in at all in the industry. We were doing our own thing. Just loved the music and loved getting out there and playing. And in fact, we were kind of approached as the band's profile got bigger and bigger. We were approached by various people in the industry because, of course, Marillion got signed to EMI. John Arneson, who was their manager, he approached us. Do we want him to manage us? And had a couple of record companies interested, but we were really, we were hippies. We were alternative, man. We wanted to just get out and play and do our own thing and not be controlled by anyone else. And we were very mistrustful of the
Yeah.
music industry, right? Really. So we had a wonderful time throughout those 5 years, and we were always amazed by, how warm the audience reception was. We didn't really expect that. So we had a lovely time, and then, as these things do, in the end, it fell apart.
So you just recorded one album in that time.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, back in those days, recording was a very expensive business,
Yeah.
right? And we recorded a few tapes, the peace tape, and sold cassettes at gigs, but we didn't have the money to record. But when we were big fans of a guy called Nigel Maslin Jones, big fans of his albums, and when he got in touch and said, because he had like a residential studio down in Cornwall, and when he got in touch and said, "Oh, I'd like to produce your album, produce an album for you," we thought, we got to do this. We got to do this. So, yeah, we just finally got it together to to go and record that Silent Dance album in 1984, which was a really long and painful process, actually, to be honest. But at least we got something to show for that period, you know?
On which label did it come out then?
Well, just on our own label. I mean, we signed a publishing deal with Bayswater Music, and they gave us a few £1,000 to record. So, you know, Nigel recorded it for us, and we just put it out on our own label called Equinox Records, you know. So that was the one and only release on that record label. But, you know, again, you know, we were not, we had no sort of business acumen at all. We weren't businessmen, you know, we just wanted to get out there and play. We were very naive. So, you know, we didn't, you know, make the most, I suppose, of the opportunities that we had. But whatever had happened to the band, you know, if we'd signed to a big label, we still would have split up because, you know, Sandy Lee, she had a baby, you know, her life changed. She didn't want to continue. So we replaced Sandy and Mark, the bass player, with two other musicians who were great, you know, but the chemistry was gone, you know, the chemistry wasn't the same. There was that, we had that lineup there was something magic about it. And as soon as we changed it, really the magic went. So the band would have fizzled out, whatever. So I'm glad we didn't get involved. We didn't kind of go against our principles at the time, you know. I'm glad we didn't do that and sign and lose artistic control and all the rest of it, because we had a great run and we had a great time, you know.
And well, but you came back in the 90s, at a time where this kind of music was even more unfashionable in the 80s. So why did you do that?
Yeah, the reason for that was because trying to choose what we were going to put on, and we had a lot of music, right? Because we've been playing for 4 years together. We had a lot of music, far more music than we could fit onto one album, onto 45 minutes of vinyl. So part of the reason was that there was all this other music that I felt I really wanted to record, you know, just to get it down and get it out there. And Keith Turner from Quasar, I don't know if you know Quasar, but it's another band from that same period, you know, from the new progressive, the progressive revival. He had a little label going called Progressive Records, and he wanted to, he was interested in putting out a CD of all that other music. So by that time I had my own little home recording facility, you know. So I just did all the programming for it. You know, I got Mark Elton down. Again, we didn't have a singer, you know, so we found another singer called Heidi Kemp, and we just recorded all our favourite material that we couldn't fit onto Silent Dance. And actually, I was much happier with that album. You know, I liked that album a lot more than.
Okay.
Even though Silent Dance is still a popular album with, you know, with listeners, I suppose it encapsulates a period. But for me, it didn't really represent how we sounded live at the time, and that's what I wanted, you know. So New Life was a little bit nearer to that, so I was pleased with that. So that's why it started off again, and then I kind of, what I've found historically is that Solstice is like our creative outlet, and I need to keep coming back to it, you know. So we then went on and did Circles in the 90s as well, which was with Clive Bunker playing drums, new singer again, you know, Emma Brown. So yeah, we've been going in little fits and starts, you know, come together, do an album, do some shows, you know. So actually, the longest period of activity has been since 2007, where Pete Hemsley, the drummer with the band, he said to me, "Man, you've got to get Solstice going again," you know. So 2007 put it together again, and we started recording, and yeah, we've been going ever since, really.
And that was when Jess joined as well, or did she join later?
No, so Emma Brown joined in 2007. She did Circles, Sorry, yeah, she did Circles in the 90s. When we
Yeah. Yeah.
restarted, she did Spirit, Kindred Spirits, which is a kind of live thing, and Prophecy in 2013. Jess has literally joined this year, you know. Jess has really just joined to make this album, you know.
Okay.
Um, but you know, I'm ambitious again now, you know, because I'm so happy with the way with working with Jess and with the way the new album's sounding. You know, I'm already thinking about the next one, you know. So
And it's interesting that we just talked about the 80s and the circle, like it's coming to an end of it joining the IQ's label GEP. How did that come to be?
yeah, so when I had most of the album of this album finished, I thought, okay, I was talking to Stephen Wilson actually, and I'm like, I need to, you know, I need to find a deal for this now, you know. So I just looked at the labels that looked like good labels that were handling our kind of music, and I picked out the top three on my list was Inside Out, GEP, and K-Scope. And I thought, right, I'm just going to contact these three labels to start with and see what happens. And GEP just got straight back to me. In fact, I tried Inside Out first, and Walter from Inside Out got straight back to me immediately. He said, is that Solstice from Silent Dance? Because I really like that album, you know. And I thought, cool, you know, this sounds good. He said, Inside Out is not the right, or Solstice is not right for Inside Out at the moment. Because, I mean, they're handling bigger bands, right, you know. But he said, my other label, GEP, who he kind of handles the business for, or some of the business side of it, I think would be perfect. So before I did anything about it, Mike Holmes had already contacted me and said, replied to my first email
Mhm.
and said, "Yeah, this sounds great. You know, let's talk about it." So it really just came about from me cold contacting a few labels, and GEP were the one that went, "Yeah, we'd love to work together." So, and they've been great. They've just been so good to work with, you know.
And how long did you work on the new songs, on the new album, arranging, producing, recording? Was it a long process?
Uh, Not really, because of the lockdown here in the UK, it actually gave me like a golden opportunity, really, because you know I was just here in the studio for like months, and pretty much all my life as a musician, I've wanted that kind of opportunity to just be able to focus on writing and recording music, which normally would mean like a big budget deal or something, right? You know, so this was just presented to me on a plate. So virtually all the work was done during the lockdown. So at the beginning of the year, when we started out on the album, Jess came up, she sang on a few tracks, and that was really a process of finding out how it was going to work with Jess. I mean, I've worked with her in another project for a few years, so I know her well.
Mm.
Um, but so we recorded some stuff, and I was like, "Oh man, this is so good. This is great." You know, her voice is perfect, but also her attitude, you know, and her creative input. You know, she has a lot of ideas. You know, she brings an awful lot to the music in a way that other singers haven't in the past. You know, they've tended to be, well, what do you want me to do, Andy? You know, and they kind of, I have to tell them, right? But with Jess, she gets it. She has a lot of great ideas. So we did a few tunes together, and then we went into lockdown, and the whole of the rest of the album was done while we were all shut in our studios.
Yeah, so maybe the next question, and maybe it's something for you both. But also, first talking about the 80s, you had a female singer the whole way, different female singers the whole way through. So you were a band which was kind of unusual in the 80s, and not so unusual today, maybe. But why did you choose to have a female singer?
Well, actually, when we started, we didn't have a singer. So for quite a long time, we were playing as a four-piece, and me and Mark, neither of us are singers really, but we did do some songs, you know, and we sang a bit. And then we thought, okay, we want to sing it. And I've always loved the sound of the female voice, you know. And I mean, I suppose from the prog side of it, I mean, there are bands like Renaissance, which, you know, which I
Yeah.
love that. But, you know, Yes were really the band in the prog scene that I adored. And of course, you know, guys can't sing in John Anderson's register, right? So that's, I guess that was another influence, you know. Yeah, you actually need a great female voice to really reproduce that kind of tone, you know. So that might be in part of it as well. But yeah, so we were very unlike, you know, the rest of the bands in that circle. You know, they were all. I mean, we felt that we shouldn't necessarily be bagged in with that lot because mostly they were doing kind of Genesis type, lots of keyboards, you know, male voice, and we were coming at it from female voice, violin, yeah, more kind of, I suppose, folk influenced melodic kind of stuff. Um, so I've always just been in love with the female voice, so it has to be, you know.
And maybe a question for Jess then, how do you relate to this progressive rock thing, to the sound of the band, which, okay, it's not so much progressive rock, but something more atmospheric maybe. But how do you relate to this kind of music? Was it something you always listened to, or was it new to you?
Yeah, this is all new territory for me. I think actually how Andy describes what Solstice and their sound is actually makes it more familiar to me more than anything. It's definitely a case of, because I knew Andy and Jenny, I knew that they were in a band. I've got albums of theirs at home anyway. I think when I came in, it was more of a case of, this is Solstice, what would you like to add to it, more than anything. And from my previous, so I write songs as well, but nothing similar really to what Andy writes. But he allowed me to have like input into it. And so I don't know, it is familiar ground, but at the same time, this is all very new to me.
He was just saying before he came that he's so happy with the thing that you don't just sing what he tells you to sing, but bring your own ideas to the music and help create the songs, probably then.
Yeah, I think that was always going to be the case. Of it's what Andy has written, and actually how Andy wrote throughout our time recording changed almost, because he got used to my voice and he worked out where I was comfortable singing. So, you know, with some songs, Seven Dreams and Need It, it was a case of, how high can you sing? Is this all right? How about this note? And then all of a sudden I'd be, you know, in my room recording it, being like, and I'd text Andy saying, what on earth? This is so powerful. I can literally force this out. Like, it feels like it's a whole other resonating voice that's coming out of me, you know? So it started off just being like, oh, here's a song, brilliant. And then changing a couple of things. And then it was like, oh, this is a song where he's actually thought about where he's placing me.
Yeah.
And then it was like, it's so organically done. It was just so natural.
Yeah, I mean, after those first couple of tunes, when I was writing stuff, I was hearing you. You know, I was thinking about what you would do and how it would sound. You know, very much, which was great, which is a great feeling, actually.
Yeah.
Did you, yeah, sorry, did you actually have something like a mental map laid out to where this album should go for you, or was it more like a process, because it's your first album with Solstice? Is it more a question for you both, but is it more a process, okay, let's see where this leads us?
I think it was just, you just wrote stuff. It happened at lockdown that we couldn't gig. So therefore, Andy just kept writing music and then turned around and went, "Oh, I've got enough for an album."
Yeah, I mean, the process might have been different had we been able to be in a room together, you know, and develop the tunes then. I mean, we were doing it remotely, you know, so I would have, you know, a pretty well organized idea, you know, and send it to Jess, and she would send it back, and the bits that I loved the most were the bits that she changed. You know what I mean? But it would have been more interactive if we'd written together. But the songs, you know, were pretty. You know, the basic sort of melodic ideas and the structure were, you know, came together here, and then they go out to Jess, and she would do her thing and just bring a whole new, you know, new layers of harmonic ideas and variations and interpret. That's what's beautiful, is that, you know, you send an idea and then Jess will interpret it, so it's not just reflecting it straight back, you know. So there's all these for me anyway, magic moments in there, which are things that you just generated in response to the melody, you know. So I mean, for me, it was really exciting, right? So, you know, I send this thing with me singing, la, 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 you know, pretty.
It was real nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Should have kept those tracks, really.
And
There's
then
a bonus CD. You can put it on a bonus CD.
yeah, it would come back, and Jess would send this stuff back to me. There'd be all these beautiful layers, you know, of vocals, and oh man, they were great moments for me, I tell you. You know, 3 o'clock in the morning, listening to what you'd done to Long Gone or something.
Yeah.
Would you? I mean, would you ever have recorded the stuff together in a room if there would have been no lockdown, or do you live so far apart? I don't know. So how would have recorded it if there wasn't restrictions?
You know, before lockdown, we did do some vocal work here, didn't we? You know, so Jess unfortunately does live quite a long way away, but we got together here and we recorded vocals for, what did we record? Cheyenne.
Shout and Cheyenne.
Love Is Coming. Did we do that here? No. Yeah, I don't remember. But we did a couple anyway. And that process was worked really well, and then even then you were kind of putting stuff in, weren't you? You know, but we were also getting to know each other. We know each other well from the other project. This is the first time we've actually worked together in the studio creating music. So I mean, it takes a little while to get comfortable with that, right? You know, and so we did that, you know, and then boom, we got locked in our houses, but it didn't stop the process. At all. Maybe it was better, I don't know, because I mean, it gave you had the space to spend as long or as little time as you wanted, you know, right? So maybe that was better than being together in the room.
Definitely.
Who knows? We'll find out next time.
It's a completely different process, though, I think, because when you are in a studio, you get immediate feedback. So I could have sung a line and Andy would have, you know, gone through the talkback being like, can you sing that with a bit more? Whereas I had, you know, a couple of days, sometimes weeks sometimes, to record a vocal take plus all the harmonies. And then I would ship them off to Andy and he would come back and he would say, 1, wow, but 2, can you change this, this and this? Or, you know, and there were just like, sometimes there were small tweaks, or other times you could tell like, oh, you're being a bit apprehensive here, this needs to be more, you need to push this. So
yeah, the immediate thing actually is really useful, isn't it? Because I mean, I know when you were doing Shout, it was like, I said, for example, you know, I said, oh, I can hear, there's a harmony I can hear here. And you went, oh, this one? Boom, you know. And I'm like, that's the one, you know, exactly. You seem to be able to just get that stuff. So that immediate thing does make for, you know, really intensely creative process, which, you know, can't do. But I mean, we made it work, right?
Yeah.
So.
And one more thing, is there an overall concept thematically to the album? or is it just like a collection of songs? I'm asking that because in progressive rock, there's almost always something thematic.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, it's not consciously conceptual, you know, which the last album kind of was. But I mean, I think that the music, or at least the lyrics and the meaning behind the songs, tend to be consistent from, you know, 1982. Really, it's still the same stuff. You know, we're still in the same. We still have the same things going on. So you know, but you know, try not to write, you know, to paint too clear a picture. You know, I like to think that people will hear the lyrics how they want to and interpret them in how they want to interpret them. You know, but no, there's no concept behind the album other than, you know. But having said that, I do think it is the most cohesive album that we've done in terms of the material and in terms of the playing on it. I think previously I've felt the need to have long kind of instrumental, you know, self-indulgent sections, and I think with this album, I think it's because of Jess, basically. You know, I'm much more comfortable about having songs, you know. So I think actually they're more, you know, there's more songs going on here and less of the other nonsense, which actually, you know, it's fine. You know, it's not. I mean, who doesn't love a guitar solo, right? You know.
Right.
I was listening to a bit of Prophecy, you know, and there's like, you know, there's loads and loads of kind of long instrumental workouts, which is cool. But what I'm loving about the album is that it's much more song centered, I think. I mean, I don't know what you think, but that, to me, that's.
Well, there's on the one track, on the 12-minute track, it's more like this typical progressive thing with a guitar solo or a guitar part as well, different parts and so on. But the rest is like more consistent, as you said. What I like very much is that the songs kind of blend into each other because they have a similar mood and different aspects of a mood, I would say, that are reflected. And they have the long track in the middle, which goes a bit in the other direction, maybe in the direction you just mentioned.
Yeah. But it just feels more cohesive to me. You know, it feels like there are different moods, but it just feels like a band that have kind of found where they want to be. You know,
Yeah.
rather than kind of searching for the right spot all the time. So for me, it's incredibly satisfying. You know. But anyway, you like the album, Sasha. That's the main thing.
Yeah. So I got one more question. Where do you think musically yeah, with the band you will be going in the next time with the pandemic and so on? You just mentioned you can't play live and there's no chance of knowing when this will be possible again. So at the beginning of our conversation, you said you were already thinking about a next album. Is that something you might do next because there's no other option working musically?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm still kind of in a positive mindset, you know, that next year we've got some really nice gigs planned for next year. We've got a bit of an issue now because Jess has done all these incredible harmonies. Now we've got to reproduce that live. So we have that planned. You know, we have some other singers that will join us, and we have some great gigs. So at the moment, I'm just thinking that's going to happen. But of course, the reality is, you know, we don't actually know that. But so if this lockdown thing keeps coming round, then as far as I'm concerned, it's just another opportunity to carry on, do some more music. Let's do some more music. You know, we've got an album to promote, which we can do from here. You know, we're shooting a video this weekend, actually, Jess, aren't we?
Okay.
You know, so we've got some really nice content that we're working on to support the album. So even if it's longer than we hoped before we can play live, we can still keep supporting this album, and we can start. I mean, I'm really hungry to do more because I kind of, music, to create more music, because I feel like we've hit a sweet spot here, you know, and I'd really like to mine it and do some more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we're just kind of getting there now. We're just beginning, Sasha. You know, this feels like a real beginning here. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm really full of energy to want to pursue it. So you know, another album maybe at the back end of next year. You know, we'll see.
Okay. So thanks very much.
Great, you're very welcome.
Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, good luck with the album and the video shoot and so on.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for the
Yeah,
interview.
thank you for your time.
Okay,
Bye. Bye.
take care.